Yo, what's good, guys? Today we got 5 ways British and American meal etiquette is different. Now, before we get into this video, I got a question for y'all. I set up just a little soundless video. It's supposed to be New York City in the background with some rain because I figured it's something cooler to look at than my turned off TV. Do you guys like this? Do you guys want me to do that more? Do you not want me to do it more? Just let me know if you guys like the idea or not. I figured it's just something cool in the background, but hey, let's get it.
Your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit thinking, here comes a payday. Hello, I'm Lawrence and I'm on a quest to uncover...
This man's... I like that. I'm gonna skip the intro though, just to save time, because nobody wants to listen to an intro of another video on a reaction video.
Whether you call it cutlery, like we do in Britain, or silverware or flatware, or in this case plasticware, because, you know, we are rationing, we can all agree that without them, meal times would be very, very messy, especially in America where they put sauce on everything. But the real question is, how do we hold them? And this was part of my existential crisis after I moved to the United States, because I grew up learning the European style, or as it might be known here, the continental style. And when I say that, I'm referring to what is the official utensil etiquette, right?
First off, before we get into what he's saying, this I think is one of the very few times, because normally when I'm like watching videos comparing the differences, it's Americans who have moved to a different country. So this is one of the first times that I can think of off the top of my head right now where it's a British dude who's moved to the US. So this is a cool little reverse.
As opposed to the official American etiquette. And I'm going to show you, I think anyway, some of the differences. I personally don't have either etiquette completely down because in my wife...
I don't got no etiquette. Listen, I was not raised with etiquette. Okay, listen, now this isn't my parents' fault, because my parents gonna watch this video, think I'm calling them out. No, they tried to give me etiquette. I just refused. So, yeah, I feel like I don't have the right to say nothing, okay? Like, I grab the damn thing. If I gotta use a fork, I grab the damn fork, I stick it in there, and then I fucking chow down like the fat American I am.
Words, I still eat like a toddler. But it mostly comes down to how we hold the fork. In Britain, you hold it kind of like that, I think. So you've got it, the end of it's touching your palm, and then you sort of grasp it with your thumb and your pointy finger, and it's there for pointing downward, right? And you stick it into
do I need to go get a fork and give you all a demonstration? Like, I just grab that thing like a fist, and I'm just like, and then I'm like,
potatoes, or the strawberries, or the spotted dick. And notice it's in my...
What the fuck? The fuck is that? Do I want to know? But you know what, man? Do you?
Left hand, that's going to be important in a moment. And in the other...
All I'm going to say is anything called spotted dick ain't going anywhere near my mouth.
Other hand, you have your knife, right? Usually like this, with the pointy finger right there, and it's touching your palm again. So consistent on both hands.
See, with the knife, we kind of go like, at least I grab it like this, then I have like my finger on top of it to like guide the blade. So it's like that. Well, I don't know why I'm trying to show y'all what I do without, if I'm going to do this.
Right, it's almost an extension of you. You're almost Wolverine, but from the United Kingdom or Europe. And then you do this, right? Usually at a lower level, you wouldn't be able to see it because my arms are off screen now, so I'll put them back there. And then you cut into the potatoes or the strawberries or the creamy spotted dick. I mean, you can come with custard. That's...
Brother. I want to look up what he's talking about, but I don't trust, for one, Google to give me he's talking about, and two, I'm not sure I want that on my search history, to be honest. So, can y'all please tell me? Because I'm curious, but I'm afraid to look it up.
That's normal. And voila, put it in your mouth. There's nothing on this. This isn't that scene in Hook where they eat invisible food. It goes this way round, right? With the tines
So
facing
upside down.
toward your tongue. In America, it's quite a bit different, right? So people will hold their fork like this, with the tines facing upward. In other words, to kind of scoop up the food, right? So they'll do that, and actually sometimes, not every time, I mean, I'm sure there are people that circumvent all of the things you hear in this very list, but sometimes Americans won't even use a knife, right? You'll just see them scoop something up, maybe a potato, we won't go through the entire list again, put it in their mouth. If they want to cut up things in that way, sometimes they'll do it with the fork, right? Don't recommend it with plastic forks. You know, you can get
that. I'm not gonna lie, I do that. I am that non-etiquette person. I mean, half the time I don't even cut it, bro. I'm gonna be honest. Half the time I'm like, I just use my damn teeth. What the? Like, I'm gonna be honest.
That. But if they do use a knife, they may turn the fork like this into the potato and then cut like that. You've got it there. You turn it back around. It's in your gob, and there you go. Bob's your uncle. You've got potatoes, and you know that's what a lot of.
I'm an uncle. I didn't know this.
Americans do. My father-in-law though did this. He had it like that and like that. He'd turn it that way, and then like that. It sort of looked. I should tell you that my in-laws were cavemen, but it was through those very cavemen / dear relatives.
I am a caveman. I would fall under. This video should just be called Caveman Reacts.
Of my wife that I was first introduced to our next entry. Yes, saying grace. This one is quite a tough entry in many ways because, you know, in order to talk about it, I do have to somewhat generalise. And also, I don't have much data to back up what I'm about to say. It's more observationally driven, right? So when I lived in England for 27 years of my life, I don't say that with disdain. It was a good time. But in all that time, I don't really remember sitting down to a dinner function of any kind and really sort of saying grace beforehand. In other words, kicking off the meal with a sort of faith-based thanks. Now, part of that, and again, this is where the generalization comes in, so bear with me, but in England, we tend to be less sort of like publicly open, or just sort of even privately open, if you can be, among your family members about your religious beliefs. Whereas in the United States, I think people are more sort of proud of that, whatever.
First off, I'm gonna assume that he's living somewhere in Southern America, because from my experience living in the Midwest and the South, that's more. I'm not gonna say we don't do it out here, because we do, but I feel like it's more common in the South. Like, it's just, that is a Southern thing in my head. And I'll speak for me and my family, like, we really don't say grace. And it has nothing to do with anything than just we're a bunch of fat-ass cavemen who want to eat. But that's kind of, at least for my family, it's more of a, say, when something big's happening, like Thanksgiving, we have a big Thanksgiving dinner, people normally say grace then. You know, if there's a big, you know, family get-together, normally that's when people are going to say grace. But, like, I feel like Southern, it's more common, like, for people to say grace before every meal, in my experience living in both places.
Whatever their religious faith is. And so sometimes in some...
Let me know, what state is this guy living in? Because if you guys know who he is, I'm sure I could do some research, but that's what you guys are for. You guys are my research.
Families, and this again could be regional, so I might well be generalizing, but some families, including the extended relatives that I married into, I didn't marry them, I married into the family. Right. Some families, and I gather maybe quite a lot of families here in the United States, particularly at special events like Thanksgiving or maybe even a homecoming of some kind, will sort of say grace before the meal, and there'll usually be one family member who stands up and says it on behalf of the entire group, and then you say amen and go about your way. For me, it was quite weird at first, I think. Now, I'm very respectful of other people's religious beliefs. I didn't really know what to do except just sort of sit there and then wait for it to be done. And then, because I had half a mind on the turkey. So
that's me. Yep.
And because I'm generalizing here, it's important for me to say that this is my experience. I'd be very interested to hear other people's experiences, other Europeans' experiences of coming here and maybe having to say grace when they're not used to it, or, you know, Americans that don't themselves practice this.
Yeah. See, what he said's, at least for my family and most people I know, pretty accurate. Like, on major holidays we tend to say grace. You know, major events, big family get-togethers, you know, we will normally say grace, but like, then there are like, say, the heavily religious people, which I don't fall under, and you know, my family doesn't really fall under. Like, I have religious family members, but you know, they're not like the we're going to church every Sunday family or Saturday, whenever church is. But like, that's definitely a thing. And as I said before, from my personal experience living in, you know, two regions of the US, I feel like it's more of a southern thing for it to be more common.
I've also heard it can go one step further here, where the whole family holds hands.
Yeah,
I definitely draw the line at that, especially right now. The best way that I can put this for British people watching back home is, you know, in football, when, you know, somebody dies and they have a minute's silence within the stadium, and then when the minute's silence is up, they all erupt in applause and all of that. It's kind of like that, minus the applause. You know, it's just an amen. But the energy after that is great, because you all want to tuck into your food. And because the energy's so good, that leads us on to our next entry.
You know what's never worse though is like, say, people going around the corner, say, especially on Thanksgiving, right? We'll do like, everybody say what you're thankful for. And then like, everybody's happy, you know, it's like the last guy, everybody's ready to dig into their food, and we got someone going along for like, it feels like 6 hours. It might have only been like 5 minutes, but you just want to eat, and you're like, will you shut up? Is that just me? It's probably just me.
Oh, I don't mind a bit of chatter and exceptionally weird noises. And at an American dinner table, you're going to get a lot of chatter. Usually, again, this is another generalization, but on the whole, this is my experience. And I'm one of those people who doesn't think that Americans are always loud, as the stereotype dictates, but one exception tends to be in restaurants, right? I do hear the volume go up there as compared to Britain, where it feels like we're always battling with this war within ourselves to not air our dirty laundry in public. I'm not saying we don't talk at dinner tables, don't get me wrong. It feels observationally, once again, and again, there's no data on this. There's not somebody going around measuring the decibels in every restaurant in either country, especially right now because they're all closed. But that's my general experience of it. Now, I could be getting thrown off course a little bit here because, you know, my wife's family are really loud. Don't tell them I said that, although this is a public video. They know it's true.
All right, let's break that down a little bit. Now, I feel like, say, there's a lot of families who eat dinner together, like, you know, they should. We don't. I'm sorry, we just don't. But, like, say we're going to a restaurant or something, like, that's normally, in the U.S., a more social thing, you know? It's kind of like a, hey, let's all hang out. Let's have a dinner together. We'll go out to a restaurant, where it's like, I don't know why that is for me and my family, from my experience, but it's just kind of how it is. Like, I don't know.
I
I see what he's saying though, and he's not wrong.
told them before, and that's why we've not spoken in a year. But here in America, you might be in a restaurant, sitting down with just one other person, trying to have a quiet, intimate conversation, and to your right there's this really loud family with a 5-year-old running around with a stupid hat on that he got from the restaurant, right?
Oh,
They're
shit.
further enhancing the volume of said family. And then on the other side there's clearly what is a date happening, and the woman is just sitting there quietly looking quite glum, while the man very audibly and haphazardly talks about all of the Fortune 500 companies he's worked for. And
Okay, also, just to point out that I feel like people here are a lot better about, say, tuning each other out, right? Like, we tend to be very good at not paying attention to outside conversations at restaurants. Like, nobody really, in all my years of going to restaurants, and trust me, I've been to a lot of them, like, it's just never been a thing where anyone's ever been bothered or paid attention to each other. Of course, I'm talking about, you know, Americans going to an American restaurant in the USA. Most of us know any different. So, like, I'm not gonna say I've never been to a place where, like, a European wasn't like, you guys shut up. Like, I'm sure it's happened before. But in my experience, I don't know, like people just tune each other out and don't really care. They just focused on their thing. And nobody really seems to care about people around them either. Like it's like everybody's focused on their people and just doing what they do, and it don't really affect anyone else.
Stares into space, presumably thinking of all the ways that she can get out of there. But on the other hand, once you do get used to that sort of raised volume, it does add to the atmosphere, you know. And if you're already in a good mood and you enter somewhere where thousands, that's a huge restaurant, hundreds maybe, where there's lots of people.
Even hundreds is a big ass restaurant.
And they're in a good mood, and it just sort of bounces off the walls, you know. Thanks. But speaking of restaurants, that brings us on to our next entry. Servers, servers, servers. My heart does go out to all of the servers and anybody else to whom this applies around the world who can't go into work right now. And a huge thank you to delivery servers who are able to keep people fed who might
When was this
But,
filmed?
you know, back in peacetime when the restaurants were still open,
3 years ago?
there was quite a
So this
marked
was
difference
filmed, like,
between, you know, British servers.
Right in the middle of because like I noticed he's talking about like when, you know, peacetime, and he's talking about when he was like, he's filmed this in like real lockdown.
And American servers, and the way they sort of conduct themselves at the dinner.
This is the main thing I've always heard. I haven't heard about, say, how they conduct themselves, but I've always heard, like, say, I heard people say before that tipping is viewed as rude in other countries, where in, you know, the U.S. it's rude not to tip. Like, the only time you don't tip is if, like, your server was a mega asshole.
Dinner table while you're eating your dinner. In Britain, they're quite standoffish, and I know that's just a trait of British people in general. I get that, but they don't have the incentive, which we'll talk about in a minute, to constantly be coming back to your table and seeing how you're doing, checking if you need a refill on that water, because you probably won't get one anyway. I'm joking, of course you'll get a free refill on your water, just nothing else. Often, know this, if you...
No free refills whenever I, like, explore other countries is gonna suck, because I'm so used to that.
You want their attention, you're going to have to get their attention yourself, and that includes when it comes time to pay the bill. Whereas in the United States, and each restaurant has its different policy on this, you know, the waiting staff will come to your table every 5 minutes usually just to see how you're doing, and it seemingly doesn't matter if you're in the middle of a seriously one-sided conversation about the Fortune 500 companies you work for. They will still come over and go, "Hey, what's up? How's that tenderloin working out for you?" And there are a couple of big reasons, I think,
now
that previously one-sided conversation about the Fortune
I like his American accent. He's put on
500 companies you've worked for. They will still come over and go, "Hey, what's up? How's that tenderloin working out for you?" And they're
I don't know why I immediately thought of like Ned Flanders off The Simpsons.
couple of big reasons I think that American serving staff do this. Firstly, the company often dictates it. It's seen as a kind of data-driven way of, you know, having good customer service. But having good customer service could well dictate this. Have they tried antifreeze with that? No. Well, he might go back to his milk phase eventually. Yeah. So the dreaded tip, or at least it was dreaded to me when I first moved to America. Actually, when I landed at Philadelphia Airport, this is the first time I remember having to sort of navigate the American tipping system, because I bought a drink at a bar at that very airport. And having bought the Jack Daniels, or 6, I'm not a good flyer. I turned to the gentleman next to me and I asked him, "How does tipping work?" And, you know, he very, very kindly offered, well, whatever the amount is on your receipt, just give them 85% of that, and that's about good. That's standard. That was a lie, and I ended up almost bankrupt.
Damn! Oh, fuck this dude. What did this man do to that man? I was like, 85%? That's crazy. Like, 20% is, like, generous.
The United States, regardless of the amount, it's very much expected that you do tip, because that's basically how servers make their wage. 85%. And the standard amount that you're expected to tip is the complete opposite of 85%. It's 15%, right?
Yeah.
But if you thought it was good service, or just to be sort of a good person, really, you can definitely tip more than that.
Yeah. Like 20 is kind of like, that's a little generous. As I was saying before, you can go higher, like. If somebody just went, like, over and aboard, you know, hey, maybe give them 25, 30. Like, that's at least me, you know. If they... You know, sometimes, you know, if you're feeling like being like an absolute G, you can like go and give 85%. Like, that's crazy.
Typically tip. Try saying that after 6 whiskeys. I did that night. I typically tip, particularly.
Typically, I give up. God damn it. I can't even speak English properly.
If I'm on a trip, 20%, or, you know, I might even round up to 21 if it kind of requires it. Tipping of some kind is expected here. In the UK, if you're thinking of going there, firstly, don't do that right now, but, you know, if after all this blows over, you are fancying going to the UK, then you're not required to tip at all, right? I mean, people...
I heard someone say that, like, people get offended for tipping. Stella, no, please. Please, no. In the middle of a video.
Get paid sort of living wage, more or less, for being a server in the UK. It's good practice. You know, if you want to do that, you certainly...
What are you doing, dude? Dude, chill.
Can.
I would cut that out, but shout out puppies.
10% is recommended. And, you know, growing up in the UK, I never really did tip all that often, I must say. I think if I were to live there now, I probably would do so a bit more. It's not expected. I mean, servers aren't going to expect you to tip. Although, if they hear your accent and you are American, their ears might prick up a bit, thinking, here comes a payday, right? Whereas it's the other way round here. As soon as servers hear a British accent, they must be filled with dread. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe servers hear a British accent and think, he's ripe for manipulation. You know, I've had some bad experiences. That's it for this episode. Thank you for joining me.
I want to hear his stories, though. Time out. I feel like this guy's got funny stories about, like, moving and, like, the bullshit he's dealt with.
Today, and, you know, it's kind of sad that I couldn't practice a lot of these things for the video, except for the knives and forks, you know, and those were the last plastics I have. As ever, a reminder that you can keep up with me and all my stupid ramblings.
Well, I am just gonna go ahead and subscribe to Mr. Lost in the Pond. Check his video out. Any video I react to is in the description. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you'd like me to watch next. Let me know what you think of the TV. My dog's here getting antsy, so if you made it to the end, comment. Let's let the pups out, because y'all go out. Let's go outside. With